Jake Taylor would love to hate Ray Steele, mainly because he's dating his first love, Kaylee Graham. Kaylee was Jake's first and only true love, Jake stated bitterly. Kaylee was oblivious to Jake's feelings about this. Jake and Kaylee lived next door and had been best friends since elementary school. In class, they sat next to each other. When regular boys and girls groups formed in high school, they still sat next to each other, causing Jake to endure a constant stream of insults. They got along well with each other, coping with schoolwork and leading an active social life. They often talked about their ambitions and plans, many of which revolved around travel and a growing list of places they would see and the adventures that would await them. Luckily, their neighborhood friends stayed with them and made school life bearable. This was greatly facilitated by Ray, who transferred from another school and asked if he could join Jake and his comrades, who constituted the backbone of the school football team. Ray was phenomenal, you could tell right away, and it wasn't just about him, it was about how he made those around him better. The team won league and county titles, and Ray's credit for this was well-deserved. Jake is good at football, but Ray is better, much, much better. His coach summed it up. Your job is to win the ball and pass it to Ray. He'll do the rest. In addition, Ray was a school and regional sports star, captain of almost all teams. The only problem is that he's also a good guy and friend, and it's hard not to like him. Hearing the coach's comment, he pulled Jake aside. This is complete nonsense. We will always win only as a team. Jake agreed with Ray and tried to win the ball and pass it to him as often as possible. He remembered the old Kinks song, David Watts. I wish I was like David Watts. He is the head boy at school. He is the captain of the team. As Kaylee grew older, the situation became increasingly awkward, and suddenly many guys were asking Jake if he would tell Kaylee that they liked her and wanted to date her. Jake was not surprised, because, in his opinion, she is the most beautiful girl in school. Before Jake knew it, Kaylee started dating Ray. Kaylee did not consider it necessary to warn Jake, because they are best friends and have never started a romantic relationship. This came as a shock to Jake, but he hid his feelings. Kaylee and Ray became the most popular couple in school, being the center of attention at every social event. All three remained good friends, but Jake began to withdraw into himself and tried to see them as little as possible. Ray, always of different sociability, couldn't do anything about it. Ray's star was rising. There was talk of contracts with professional football players, but Jake felt that in comparison he was just a non-entity. Now that he wasn't sharing his dreams with Kaylee and building them around her, his dreams seemed to fade away. He just had to accept that she was playing in a different league than him. He looked at the old and ruined house on Morton's farm. It was huge, the largest in the city. After the death of old man Morton, it was inherited by a rich family that no one in the city knew. The house was empty, the windows were boarded up and left to the mercy of fate. Earlier, Jake and Kaylee had discussed increasingly grandiose plans for what they could do with him. Jake and Kaylee attended their hometown university, a return to their early ambitions, while Ray had already signed a contract with a local professional football club, Melchester Rovers. There was talk that he could continue his career and win an international prize at youth level. Jake and Kaylee quickly developed different groups of friends, some in their community, others in clubs, sports clubs, and classes. Jake realized that he had no chance with Kaylee. He had no way to get out of the friend zone and compete with Ray. Finally, he plucked up his courage and asked Sharon out on a date. Newsome, a pretty girl who Jake really liked when they were introduced at a party. He was delighted when she agreed. They got on great. Everyone thought they were perfect for each other, and they soon became a permanent couple. Kaylee was surprised to feel hurt when Jake confirmed he was dating Sharon. It didn't make sense, but they always talked about their future together, and it made her realize how distant they were. She wondered if they were still best friends, since Ray had become such an important part of her life. She noticed that Jake had bulked up, not as much as Ray, but still not bad. He looked good, was quick to laugh, and was always a great friend, someone you could count on. She couldn't remember a single argument or even a squabble with Jake, unlike Ray, with whom she often argued and happily made peace. What could her relationship with Jake have grown into if she had not met Ray? Sharon would be an idiot not to date Jake, and she better act right with him or else she'll have to answer to Kaylee. Things went awry when the university's women's hockey team organized a club fundraiser. Basically, they were going to auction off a date with any of the team members at the Christmas party. It was supposed to be fun and that the regular boyfriends would get their girls. Kaylee was also on the team, but did not want to participate, but the others convinced her, saying that they would organize everything so that Ray would win. Be that as it may, she was reassured. He had more money than anyone else at the university. Permanent boyfriends, this idea was not liked at all. Many of them, including Ray, knew each other, and without the knowledge of the hockey team, they decided that they would not participate in the auction. The auction took place in the student union bar. The girls were depressed because none of their boyfriends participated in the auction, and the dates were won by various guys from the university, some handsome, some completely unattractive. The girls were angry that their boyfriends didn't enter the competition, and the guys were angry about how stupid the idea was. It all turned into a real carnage when it was Kaylee's turn at the end. The most arrogant jerk in the university won the bid. She looked at Ray, who appeared, but he just shrugged his shoulders, making no attempt to participate in the auction. Jake made the bet without hesitation, instinctively wanting to protect Kaylee. Kaylee breathed a sigh of relief. Ray was furious and ran outside. Things got worse when my escalated met Sharon's eyes, full of tears. Jake was shocked. He didn't expect to have a date with Kaylee. He was just defending his friend, and Sharon saw this as an admission of what she had long been afraid of. Kaylee tried to apologize to Ray, agreeing that everything happened through the fault of the team, but he did not listen to her. "Don't be a fool, Ray. This is a polite date for charity, nothing more, and it shouldn't have happened at all if you had made the bet, as it should. Look, I know this was a stupid idea, but let's not make things worse. At least Jake saved me from dating that asshole. It's okay, Kaylee. Go on a date with Jake. He paid for you after all. I'm sure you'll have a great time." The whole thing was ridiculous to Jake, who thought the team deserved to be reprimanded for being arrogant enough to expect guys to bet on them. He didn't expect to be able to take Kaylee out of the game. It was funny until it wasn't anymore. "What time should I pick you up for the party on Friday, Sharon?" "Oh, you didn't invite me with you, and I thought you were going with Kaylee. Sorry it upset you. I was just protecting a good friend. We're doing well, so I assumed we'd go together. Don't you want to go?" "Well, the thing is, I agreed to go with Ray when he suggested." "Come on, Sharon," I explained everything. "I want to go with you. It's not my fault, is it?" Sharon's voice softened. "This is just a one-time date with Jake because of Kaylee. I can see you on Saturday night." "What if the star ray falls on you and they leave me? Is that what you hope for, Sharon?" "Of course not. He offered, I agreed, and it all depends on you and Kaylee. Have a nice time, Sharon. We won't see you on Saturday." Jake and Kaylee didn't go to the party or see each other. They both spent very quiet evenings apart, and both were upset by this turn of events. Rumors spread quickly about what happened at the party. On Monday, Sharon approached Jake. "Hi, Jake. I was wondering if you would like to go to the cinema tonight. They are showing a good film." "No thanks, Sharon, but don't you want to go with Ray?" Sharon shifted nervously from foot to foot. "It was just a one-time party, Jake. It didn't mean anything." "I heard otherwise. I heard that you had a great time. You should look at the photos on social networks. Moreover, all the athletes were bragging about how easy new dates were for them. Let's see what they say." "It's impossible for you to believe this." "Yes, but you could make an exception for the football star. Should I ask Ray for all the details?" Sharon looked horrified and Jake left. He knew Ray wouldn't tell him anything, but Sharon's reaction spoke volumes. The consequences of the party affected several couples at once. Some of the girls went on to date the guys who won the auction, including a physics nerd who entertained the attractive captain of the hockey team and treated her with such respect that she dumped her athlete. Several dreary weeks passed before Jake ran into Kaylee again. "I heard you and Sharon broke up because of Ray." "Yes, in general. I'm sorry, but I feel like it's my fault, the auction and all. Ray and I also broke up. I can't believe what he did to Sharon. She made her own choice. No one forced her." There was a long, awkward silence, and Kaylee was the first to break it. "I still owe you that date, and if you're free, would you like to take me somewhere?" "Of course. Why not?" "Jake, you could have been more enthusiastic. We've met many times before. Kaylee, this is nothing new. I mean that you will invite me to date, Jake, and not just as a friend." "Oh, how? Really? I thought we were just friends, and I don't want this to become some kind of revenge. Our friendship means so much more to me." Kaylee looked upset. "I wouldn't do that to you. Jake, this would be a real chance for both of us. I've always liked you. You're funny and a good listener. We've always been close and got along well. There must be a reason for all this, and we have yet to plan all these adventures. Do you remember this?" "Of course." "Idiot. Look, our friendship means a lot to me too. I just thought we should give ourselves a chance. I'm done with Ray. He's not who I thought he was." Both Ray and Sharon were furious when they found out. Ray said that Jake was always stalking Kaylee and suggested that they orchestrated the whole thing together. Sharon claimed that Kaylee wanted to take her boyfriend away. They started officially dating and were having a great time, and despite his doubts and the fact that it was very early, Jake began to think that things could work out. Kaylee certainly attracts a lot of male attention, but she knows how to deflect it, and he asked her about it. "I know I'm not like Ray and some of the other guys, but don't you have temptations?" "No, I don't like you. Most of those guys are arrogant and fool their girls. You are definitely different, kinder and more mature." It wasn't quite the passionate approval Jake had hoped for, but it still felt good. Ray signed a full professional contract. They often saw him in the city, and he always stopped to talk. It was awkward at first, but when Ray apologized for ruining his relationship with Sharon, the animosity subsided. He was loaned out to a lower league team for a season to gain experience, only to return closer to home 9 months later. Weeks and months passed, and their relationship developed. Jake was thinking about proposing to Kaylee, perhaps with a long-term engagement until they graduated from university. He finally plucked up the courage to pop the question on the moonlit beach along the coast where they lived. Jake took Kaylee's hands in his and turned to face her. "I would like to answer yes to the question you asked me when we were 7 years old." "What question?" Jake got down on one knee. "You asked me to marry you when we were in elementary school, and now I ask, Kaylee, will you marry me?" To Jake's horror, Kaylee hesitated. I, I'm not sure I'm ready." Damn. Yet Jake managed not to voice his thoughts out loud. He rose from his knee, trying to hide the most embarrassing moment of his life. "Yes, of course, take as much time as you need. I was just in a hurry." "I'm really sorry, Jake. This is a very big step, and I'm so confused. I need a little time to think, a little space." "Yes, of course, everything is fine." Jake wished he could disappear. Now would be a good time to have one of these teleportation beams from Star Trek. "Sorry if this was sudden. I thought you were expecting this. If you need time and space, I can give it. If this doesn't suit you, then we should be honest with each other and part ways." Kaylee was in a panic, not knowing what she wanted. "I don't want this. You mean more to me than anything in the world." The quiet walk from the beach was awkward for both of them. Jake decided to give Kaylee some time before getting involved with her. He also needed to figure everything out on his own. He also felt, given their last conversation and how depressed he felt after Kaylee's rejection, that she should make the first move. A few days later, a friend mentioned seeing Kaylee with Ray back from a business trip, and it might have been innocent. They were friends after all. He was more disappointed that she didn't call him. Several more days passed without contact, and he put off calling until he ran into her in the student union the following week. "Hey, Jake, I wanted to talk." "Is it true? But you didn't call me for more than a week. You were probably busy. What did you want to talk about? Say that you are dating Ray again." "Thanks. Have I heard this before?" "What? No. Well, we met a couple of times, but it wasn't a date. He just returned from his rental and we caught up." "Well, if something swims like a duck and quacks, then it is a duck. So, this is not a date, but just repeated dates with your ex-boyfriend, while you told me that you needed time and space." Kaylee flushed. "You know what? Fuck you. I'll date him and see how you like it." Kaylee left, angry at Jake's accusations. She had finally calmed down, the depressed expression on Jake's face when she didn't say yes to his proposal, and now this. This was the first time they fought. She didn't contact Jake because she didn't know how to respond to him. Yes, she dated Ray, but it was just a friendly relationship, right? It was clear that Ray wanted more, and she had to admit that she was attracted to him, and it felt like unfinished business. But Jake is the best man she knows and is the smart choice. She panicked when he asked her to marry him and ruined everything. But being accused of cheating is just insulting. She tried to call Jake to explain everything, but he ignored all her calls and texts. Ray had matured a lot, but they still had a relationship. She wasn't sure if she and Jake were still a couple, so when Ray asked if she wanted to have lunch, she agreed. Kaylee and Ray had a wonderful lunch. His loan spell went incredibly well, and he was hopeful that he could challenge for a place in the first team. Melchester. They were laughing when Jake entered the room. Their eyes met, and Kaylee shuddered internally, realizing what it looked like. Jake didn't leave and walked up to the sitting couple, seeming eerily calm. "I came to apologize for not answering your calls, Kaylee, and to find out what state we were in. But now I understand that I was worrying in vain. Of course, it didn't take you long. I would have thought that before dating another man, you could have given me an answer to my proposal, but perhaps I expected too much from you." "It's not like that. Jake, we're all friends." "Friends? I guess this means it's over between us, and friends shouldn't be treated like crap. I shouldn't have trusted you." Jake left. Kaylee cried, beating herself up for being an idiot. She could have handled this much better and had no right to blame Jake for the conclusions he had drawn. But at the same time, she was angry that he did not believe her explanations. Jake missed her more than ever and was desperately unhappy. He wanted to contact her, but he felt betrayed and insulted and couldn't take it anymore. He soon learned that Kaylee and Ray began dating. He was upset, but at least it confirmed his suspicions and put an end to any doubts. Just 2 months passed and Jake's parents showed him the announcement of Ray and Kaylee's wedding. Jake was stunned. She was ready to get married, but not to him. Whether it was the money or the athleticism, he still couldn't understand why there was such a rush. He did not come to the wedding, but friends said that the happy couple was moving to London, since Ray had moved to a new team, receiving big money. Jake knew he had to move on and forget her. He graduated from university and went traveling. He traveled around Asia and Europe for a year, and then returned home. He found a job he liked and became an engineer at a local construction firm. He dated several different women, but nothing serious developed with any of them. They all missed the connection he had with Kaylee. Jake first learned about Ray's betrayal from the press under the headline, "Away Game." Ray was allegedly caught at a party with a group of players and women. Some of the women made a living on social media and posted clips of the party online, and Ray, as the star player, was at the center of it all. His club weren't too concerned because he's now an international footballer and worth a fortune, and that's not unusual for players, but Kaylee was more than a little concerned. Kaylee returned to the city, began to live with her parents, and avoided the press. 5 years have passed since she left, and now she has 2 children in her arms. They talked about her in the city. She worked as a model and appeared on celebrity TV shows, earning her own money. Try as he might, Jake couldn't escape it all, typical overheard comments being, "She's stunning, much better than the hottie that left town. She must be worth a fortune, considering that divorce agreement they're talking about. Probably the most enviable woman in the area." 5 months after her return, they literally came face to face. Kaylee almost knocked a pint of beer out of Jake's hands in the old bar where they usually hung out. They looked at each other in silence before exchanging overly polite greetings. The conversation was awkward and stumbling, but we managed to ask each other if everything was okay, and both gave positive but cautious answers. Jake couldn't bring himself to express his condolences to Kaylee about her divorce. He decided that he had avoided the collision, remaining unharmed, and was about to leave. But when they parted, Kaylee said, "Jake, can I buy you some coffee sometime? I'd like to explain everything." Against his better judgment, he agreed. "I never thought it would be so difficult to talk to you, Jake. It's always been so easy for us together." Jake couldn't think of anything to say to that and chose to shrug. "I'm sorry, Jake, that I reacted to your proposal the way I did. It was such a shock, and it was only when you came up to us at lunch that I realized that I hadn't given you a clear answer. Then I wanted to say, yes, but could we wait a little? I just couldn't express it at that moment." Yes, of course, that's not what you said at all. It seemed to me that your answer was a clear no, and you were just trying to be kind to me. I understand. I didn't call you because I didn't know what to say. I talked to my mom and friends and mentioned it to Ray, and that was part of the reason we decided to meet and talk. I swear, when you found us having lunch that day, we were just meeting as friends. You weren't ready to get engaged with me, but after that she practically ran to church with him, and it drove me crazy. I realized that he is the one you always wanted. It wasn't like that, Jake. I was so angry when you didn't believe me that I stopped communicating with you. And the longer you ignored me, the angrier I became, and I went on a date with Ray again. One night we got drunk and got carried away, and then I found out I was pregnant. This shouldn't have happened. I was still wondering if we would have a future together with you, but I turned out to be pregnant. I couldn't imagine that you would take me back, and in terms of timing, it could only be Ray. When I told him, he was ecstatic and asked to marry me, told his family, and I got caught up in it all. Due to the pregnancy, we had to act quickly. It seemed to me completely ridiculous that my proposal and the way you reacted. By the time I realized we should talk about this properly, you were already having lunch with your ex. I was sure that you still cared about him, and it looks like I was right. Don't ever think this proposal is ridiculous. I'm still flattered that you asked me. It's my fault. My reaction was, well, just wrong. Maybe I had something for Ray, but I put it aside. I wanted to be with you, and then everything went wrong very quickly. Marriage never seemed ideal to me. At first everything was good, but then it quickly deteriorated. To tell the truth, I made the wrong choice, and I really regret it. We were too young, and neither Ray nor I had the sense to stop. I never loved him the way I love you. The word loved instead of love attracted Jake's attention, but he quickly discarded this thought. A stranger was sitting in front of him. Can we meet again? How are you friends? I miss communicating with you so much. Despite some hesitation from Jake, they began dating, irregularly at first, but gradually their friendship was restored. It was Kaylee who asked if they could rekindle their relationship. Jake was faced with a dilemma. Can he open up, and what if he gets hurt again? Kaylee seemed to read his thoughts. We had such a good time together. Let's just take our time, Jake. Let's build trust in each other. I need to think about the boys too. Honestly, I don't know, Kaylee. I remember someone said that I could take as much time as I needed, so it's only fair that you get the same. Don't be so gloomy, Jake. For that matter, I'm practically rich, and they say I look good. Jake tried to smile, but his gut tightened. Albeit hesitantly, they started dating slowly. It took weeks for the first kiss. Jake found that he didn't ignite under Kaylee's touch. Eventually, Jake met Kaylee's sons. It was an important moment for all of them. She was delighted with how well Jake got along with her boys. No pretentious words, he just started kicking the ball around with them. He excelled in sports and games. Jake met Ray only in the summer after the league games ended, when he came to the house to pick up the boys for the holidays. They were talking outside while Kaylee was fussing about hurrying boys so that they have time to prepare for their father's arrival. Ray was still sociable and cheerful. "Jake, I'm so glad to see you." Jake raised an eyebrow. "I wish I could say the same thing. None of this is so important anymore. You are with Kaylee now, and perhaps it should have always been this way, but then I wouldn't have these guys." "What happened between you?" "I admit, I was too young and a useless husband, but I understand why she returned to you. You have always been more stable, and there was a connection between you. She likes the admiration and that lifestyle. She gets along with people. She has a lot of energy, and she likes attention. But it all happened because of me. There are too many temptations, and no one like you around to reason with me." "Sounds like you still want to be with her." "I wouldn't hesitate to take her back, especially since I'd go back to the boys. But things didn't work out for us, and she wants you. You are a good guy, and I think you are exactly what she needs." The conversation left Jake perplexed. What she needs, rather than the one she wants, sounded strange, and Ray made no secret of the fact that he still wanted Kaylee. Jake wondered if Ray was trying to play a joke on him. Jake was both happy and sad to see that Morton's old farmhouse had been purchased and was being renovated, as living there had been one of their childhood dreams. He was looking at the work being done and thinking about how he would have done some things differently when Kaylee pulled up, jumped out of the car, and asked what he thought about it. "It's nice to see that the old building has been preserved. It was falling to pieces." Kaylee couldn't help herself. "What if I say that it is ours? I bought it and got to work. This has always been one of our dreams, Jake." Wow. He hugged Kaylee. He was happy, but he had always assumed that he would do everything himself or they would do it together, and the thought of the money coming from Ray and her divorce settlement left him in an awkward position. "It will be faster and more practical if others do the work, and then we can move there as soon as we get married." The word "getting married" immediately distracted Jake from his worries about the house. Jake tried to remember if he had proposed to her. Maybe he had forgotten about it after the injury he received on his first attempt. "I know we haven't discussed this, Jake, but I'm back with you and I want it more than anything. I didn't want to make you worry by proposing again." Jake reasoned that all his childhood dreams were coming true. Home, and now his true love, who wants to marry him. He expressed his doubts to his friends, who looked at him as if he had two heads. "You're crazy. She's like a supermodel, and she's rich, too, and for some reason she likes you. Only an idiot wouldn't jump at this chance." His parents were more conservative in their assessments, but still maintained that they were always destined to be together. They got engaged, and suddenly everyone was immersed in wedding preparations, like a train running at breakneck speed. Jake was annoyed by how often Ray hung around during the summer, often showing up unexpectedly and just stopping by their house and shouting, "Hi." Then he met with Kaylee at children's events and sports competitions. Jake couldn't wait for preseason football training to begin. Kaylee walked down the stairs looking stunning in a tight dress that showed off her legs and all her curves. Her hair was pinned up, highlighting her long, elegant neck and shoulders. "You look amazing, but isn't that a little too much for a children's party? There is a special case with photography. I want to look good." She went to chat with the guests, many of whom Jake did not know. Jake had seen that all this was too much. There were a lot of people, with more adults than children, and, of course, in the center of it all was Ray. Young mothers fawned over him. Fathers did not lag behind, and Kaylee was always there. There was a huge amount of entertainment for children, clowns, bouncy castles, games, just laughter. The whole thing must have cost a fortune, but Jake was told not to worry about it since Ray was paying for everything. Feeling that he was being ignored, Jake decided to play and frolic with the children. They had a great time and many children hung on his legs, trying to vigorously grab onto him. Jake grabbed a drink to calm himself down and cool down. Kaylee still seemed to be stuck with Ray, so when Kaylee's grandma said she was tired, Jake offered to take her home. They always got along well and made small talk until he dropped her off and walked her home. She made something of a cryptic comment to him. "Make sure you're fair to yourself, Jake." What did she mean? Jake was in no hurry to return and went to his favorite place overlooking the sea. He ignored the call from Kaylee, but then a text message came. "Where are you? I dropped off your grandmother. I didn't think there was any point in rushing back. You and Ray have everything under control. Don't be like that. I want you here. And it only took you 2.5 hours to figure this out. Sorry, got distracted talking to everyone and communicating. With everyone or just with Ray? Please come back so we can talk." Jake headed back. Happy that everything was settled, Kaylee smiled and thanked him for coming back, saying that they would talk properly later. Jake tried to find a safe topic to talk about. It looks like the kids had a great time. At this moment, the birthday boy Lewis was playing in a cardboard box, pretending that it was a truck and ignoring all the expensive gifts. Ray smiled. "Just look at him. We must have good genes." Kaylee sighed. "Yes, he is ideal." Ray laughed and added, "If you ever want another one, let me know." Jake was taken aback by this remark and waited for Kaylee to object. Ray noticed his reaction. "Lord, look at your face. Who pissed on your chips?" "I'm just joking and teasing you." "Fuck off, Ray. I'm not in the mood. Our relationship is a joke to you, good old Ray, forever loitering nearby to pick up the pieces like the first time." "Don't be so petty, Jake. Ray didn't mean anything like that." "That's exactly what he meant, and that's exactly how you treated me today, neglectful and disrespectful, and now you're defending him. I am tired of this." Jake came out and Kaylee. I remained sitting with my mouth open. Jake's outburst came as a shock to her, and worst of all, she realized that her actions had actually been disrespectful. She jumped up and ran after him without saying a word to Ray. "Let's just sit down and clarify the situation. Ray and I will always be close because of the children. We have a good relationship, but there is nothing sexual or romantic about it. There is nothing wrong. It's not only about this, but also about how you behave. I think you still think he's the better man. It is not true. I shouldn't have been with him to begin with. I love you, not him. With you, I feel protected and loved. We are best friends and a perfect couple. I want to spend my whole life with you. I don't want any of this with him. He's not capable of this. You may want this with me, but that doesn't mean you're not attracted to him." Kaylee, I had to admit that it was damn close. They spent a lot of time together, and Ray kissed her at a party when they were upstairs putting the younger one to bed, and the kiss lingered. It took a few moments for her to realize what she was doing before she thought about Jake. She went in search of him, but was informed that no one had seen him for a couple of hours. Why did she kiss Ray when she was about to marry Jake? Is she still attracted to him? Kaylee imagined herself having an affair with Ray, and the thought was exciting until she remembered Jake. She can't afford to lose her soulmate. Jake is the best man, the right choice, and she has no doubt that she loves him. Jake managed to put aside his worries and get busy preparing for the wedding, while Kaylee tried to forget about her infatuation with Ray. Kaylee thought the wedding setting in the old farmhouse was simply idyllic. There were hundreds of guests there, and it was much better than Ray's pregnancy-induced ceremony. She followed the girls scattering petals, arm in arm with her father, to stand next to the nervous Jake. The pearl satin mermaid-style dress hugged every inch of her body. She had diamonds and silver threads woven into her hair and looked like the epitome of a fairy tale princess. She enjoyed the looks she received as she walked down the aisle. The priest gave a welcoming speech and said a prayer before making his opening remarks. Kaylee was beaming and beaming, but Jake continued to be nervous. The question of whether there were any legal barriers to marriage was met with the usual awkward silence and a playful ugh from the priest. The priest turned to Jake. "Jake William Robertson, do you take a wife, Kaylee Miller? Will you love her, cherish her, honor and protect her, and, leaving everyone else, remain faithful to her until the end of your days?" Here it is, that very moment. Finally, all of Jake's dreams are coming true. He marries the girl he adored and loved since the age of 7. I. Kaylee looked at him worriedly. "Jake, are you okay?" I can't, Kaylee." There was a general sigh in the church. I can't marry you. I'm not everything to you like you are to me. But you are my everything. I love you. I should have said no earlier, but I wanted it so bad. And I'm saying this now before it's too late for both of us. You know, there are words that you never use in relation to us: desire, passion, lust, and similar words. I want it all to be with someone, not just a friend who chose the smart option. Kaylee didn't know how to convince him. Even now, words don't come to you. You will always want something or someone else, Kaylee. I'd be a fool to trust you with my heart again. Ray sat on the bench in complete bewilderment, thinking that Jake was always smarter than him. He had the same doubts about Kaylee, but he married her anyway. She loves attention and has always wanted to get what she doesn't have. He is confident that he has every chance of seducing her. He certainly wouldn't make the mistake of getting into a relationship with her again. In a way, it's a shame. Jake would be a great father to his children. As Jake left the church, he thought he caught a glimpse of Grandma Kaylee's grin. Then he heard their entrance song, "Wishing Well, I Free, play. You have always been my good friend." But there were so many goodbyes, and only when satisfied. This is standing with your feet in a wishing well. Reaching the exit, Jake took a deep breath and felt peace for the first time. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.